Good evening, friends, supporters, Chancellor Folk, and members of your cabinet, and to our esteemed guests. Welcome to this, our 23rd annual Sonia Haynes Stone Memorial Lecture and the 10th anniversary lecture to occur here in the Stone Center building. As many of you know, it was 10 years ago that in this very same room, we celebrated and christened this building, marking the culmination of an extraordinary effort by UNC alums, students, administrators, and community supporters, all motivated by the belief that this campus would be well served by a center where one could study and at times celebrate the arts, the history, and the cultures of African Americans and other communities of African descent. In honor of that idea, we've tried to establish a center where one would always be able to find serious intellectual challenges, the pursuit of the highest possibilities for art and culture, and always the willingness to engage in serious debate about the conclusions we reach. There is a saying in a book which is very, very close to me. It's a book by Barry Foster called Arctic Dreams, and in it he talks about an elder, and that elder is called a lumentog, and that sort of loosely translates into one who creates the conditions for wisdom to reveal itself. We like to try to think of the Stone Center in that light, as a place where wisdom has the opportunity to reveal itself. Here now, 10 years hence, this center, in addressing its mandate to pursue a university-wide mission, has hosted 9 MacArthur Fellows, 1 Nobel laureate, 8 Pulitzer Prize winners, 18 artists in residence, 6 scholars in residence, 7 graduate research assistants, 20 undergraduate leadership fellows, under the recently renamed Sean Douglas Leadership Fellows Program. Those fellows received over $25,000 in stipend support since we've been established. We've also hosted 71 undergraduate international studies fellows who received over $100,000 to support their international travel and study. Our gallery has sponsored 20 exhibitions that featured artists from Durham, from other parts of the United States, Haiti, South Africa, the Dominican Republic, Panama, Morocco, Brooklyn, Jamaica, among other countries. In addition, and in pursuit of the mandate to serve the university, we provided programming venues for other campus departments and units, and for students, alums, and other off-campus groups on over 1,200 separate occasions. Since opening in 2004, the Stone Center, fulfilling the wishes of the students who made the strongest arguments for the creation of this building, has hosted over 300 separate classes from over 42 academic departments. Our off-campus partnerships over the last 10 years include more than 35 community-based organizations, and we have worked with every HBCU in the area. We have also worked with various academic units located at most of the other universities in the region. With your support, we've welcomed over 600 K-5 students in the last 10 years, from elementary schools under the auspices of the university, and the 300 volunteers that invested over 800 volunteer hours each year for the past 10 years, some of whom are with us tonight. We have taken seriously the charge that you gave us, and the challenges we face are not challenges that we felt unprepared or unequipped to meet. Each and every one of these accomplishments I've mentioned is directly attributable to the dedication of our staff, to the dedication of our board, and to the support that we've received from administrators, donors, and those who participate in other ways. Tonight is an opportunity to say thank you, but we also want to let you know that this project is not finished. One of these things that we've been saying recently is that it's important that we help prepare students to get a job, but we also want to prepare them to get a life. We will be working in the future, the very near future, with our development office to launch campaigns to name our library and to finish the naming of other unnamed spaces in the building. In particular, please be on watch for a new seat naming campaign that we are trying to prepare for the auditorium. I want to sort of move on so we have time for the presentation, full period for the presentation. but I also want to acknowledge several organizations and individuals that are not only important to us, but central to any of the successes that we've been able to claim. Tonight, when you came in, you saw Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority serving tonight. If you've been here at any time in the last 10 years, they are always here. They are always willing, they are always helpful, and tonight I want you to help me thank them for the dedication that they've shown to the Stone Center. They joined the men of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity who consistently come forward to support us when called. Two of the most important student organizations in the founding of the Stone Center, the Black Student Movement, and along with them, the campus-wide. It's representatives of BSM here tonight. How many students? There you are. Please, thank you. One of the longest-lived student organizations on campus. I also want you to recognize, and oftentimes they work behind the scenes, you see their emails, or you get messages from them, and that's the Stone Center staff. Standing in the back is our program manager from the university, Chris Wallace. To my right, Sharif Rameh, actually the newest member of our staff, our new program associate, Clarissa Goodlett, who's working in the hallways, as usual, doing things behind the scenes. And members of our student staff, will you please raise your hands as well? I also want to recognize the Stone Center Advisory Board. I see Robert Stonell is sitting here. Iris Carlton-Lene is here. Vincent Bayan is here. There are other members. Would you please raise your hands so we can recognize you as well? Thank you, sir. There are, as you know, the Stone Center continues to support the undergraduate leadership fellows. Tonight we have the three 2014-2015 Sean Douglas Leadership Fellows class with us. I'd like them to stand. Jasmine Jennings, Kimberly Clarendon, and Gerard. Thank you. And I also want to recognize the Stone Center's 2014-2015 Scholar in Residence, standing in the back, Cherie and Belico. And I would be remiss if I did not recognize a very, very special guest who's with us tonight and has been with us since the Stone Center has been here. She is the elder in our midst, and that is Professor Hortense McClinton, the first Black faculty member at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Please. We are going to follow very closely into the letter, the program, so I'm going to ask our next set of folks to come up to talk. Actually, Chancellor Folk, I know that you are, there you are, okay. You all should know that one of the first programs that the Chancellor attended when she took this job was the Stone Lecture.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It is such an honor to be here. I'm so excited, and I want to thank Dr. Jordan, the director of the amazing Stone Center, and members of the advisory board. I could add a thanks to every single person that he mentioned, because this is truly an illustrious audience to see so many friends, so many students, so many alums, lots of wonderful faculty and community members all here for this really special day when we're celebrating 10 years of this remarkable place. And, you know, as you heard, this is one of the first places that I came, and it's actually already feels like home to me because I've been invited to so many really tremendous events here, and it's not just the speakers, but the art and the different ways that we get together in this beautiful, beautiful space that sits right at the heart and at the center of our campus. So I just feel so lucky to be here, and it makes me think all the stories that I've heard about the people that really made it happen. And as students, I want you to know that every time anyone talks about the Stone Center, they talk about students. And not just why people want the center here for students, but how students have been the people through every generation that has really made this place happen. And that, I think, is very special, and I think we're really excited to see you all here and to be celebrating with you this wonderful place. Last year, we were all here, and we listened to Roz Fuse Hall, a wonderful Carolina graduate, had worked here for many years, and had just become the new president at Bennett College. And I just went to her investiture just a couple weeks ago, and it was such a feeling of pride to see her standing there leading the Bennett Bells, one of the historic universities in America, with such pride and purpose. And I realized I just had seen her here just last year speaking. And I feel that we're in for the same amazing special event here tonight. I wish I had known Dr. Stone. Everything I've heard about her is that she was an amazing person. Even tonight, I met another person who talked about what a mentor that she was to their life. But I do know that what she wanted is what seems to be living here, a place that would really draw on the rich experience of our African American culture, and where students and everyone could learn together and apply that history to build our future. And I think about that every day. Today we live in a moment when we're building history, but tomorrow that becomes everybody's future, and that's in a moment what we're actually celebrating today. And she really wanted to see and felt there was an urgent need to retreat and use Black culture as a guide, not only to understand the past and guide the present, but really to shape the future of the experience. And she stated that as early as when she graduated with her PhD from Northwestern in 1973. Those are some of the words that she used in her thesis. One of the last things I want to say is that I think for so many people that help build it, it's wonderful to know how this center lives in the lives of students. And I was here recently with the Black student movement when they were actually having an event to explain to all the students on this campus the incredible numbers of opportunities you would have to work together with the BME. And I think there must have been close to 75 students that were coming onto a stage and describing a breathtaking set of opportunities where our students were leading organizations that went everything from helping other students find their way to college, helping to understand neuroscience, helping to lead activities in every single realm of what we believe is the cultural life of a great university in the midst of a social life of a state. And it was truly fantastic. And what I saw there was the real maturation of what this center was, living in our students. And recently, I've met with a number of other students from other cultural groups, and I just want to tell you that their dream, their motto, is what the Black student movement students are creating. Their model and their dream is to find a home. They already find a home here, for which they are extremely grateful, but they want to look at the lessons learned here and apply them to make sure they too are able to celebrate their cultures. So, that's 10 years in this space. It's amazing how much future is created here. So it's an honor for me to be here, and now I'm so excited to be here to be able to listen to our speaker today, Carol Mason, and you're going to hear a lot more about her amazing accomplishments, but it does give me a little bit of goosebumps maybe to think I'm standing here about to hear another trailblazing woman speaking up here in a series honoring another trailblazing woman. So today, women rule.
Haynes Stone was born in Chicago in 1938. As a graduate student, she did extensive work with the Northeastern Illinois University Department of Inner City Studies, acting at various times as its director, chairman, and assistant professor. She came to UNC Chapel Hill in 1974 as an assistant professor and was the director of the curriculum in Afro-American Studies until 1979. She was named an associate professor in 1984. An admired teacher, she won the Favorite Faculty Award from the class of 1990. That same year, she was the first recipient of the Outstanding Black Faculty Award from the UNC at Chapel Hill General Alumni Association. Her many other honors include the Black Student Movement's 1983 Faculty Award, its 1980 Award for Excellent Academic Achievement, the 1982 NC Alumni and Friends Coalition Award for Achievement in Higher Education, and the 1978 National Council for Black Studies Dedicated Service Award. These awards are a reflection of her passion for educating her students and her desire to help them see themselves as change agents. Former students have described Stone as regal, challenging, and unwavering in her expectations of greatness in the classroom. Dr. Stone was the advisor to the Black Student Movement from 1974 to 1980 and was active in promoting the minority presence on campus. Her voice was critical in establishing and expanding the Afro-American students' curriculum here at Carolina. She was a member of the campus-wide advisory board in various professional and honorary organizations, including the National Council for Black Studies, the NAACP, Women's Equity Action League, and the North Carolina Association of Educators.
Dr. Stone's history with the Stone Center dates back to the initial planning stages where she served faithfully on the Black Cultural Center Planning Committee. She was a powerful voice in Black Cultural Center discussions, which were sometimes challenged with the notion that the center should be fashioned as a multicultural center instead. Once the center was established in 1988, Dr. Stone served on the advisory board and worked diligently to ensure the center received the support it needed during its early years. After Dr. Stone passed away in 1991, students, inspired by a presentation on civil rights activists given by Dean Harold Woodard, began mobilizing to advocate for a freestanding facility to be named after Sonia Haynes Stone. Around that time, student Michelle Thomas noted publicly that Carolina hadn't named any buildings for African Americans. Thus, this was an opportunity to both honor Stone and to remedy the omission of African Americans from the ranks of named buildings at UNC Chapel Hill. Dr. Stone's work lives on through the Sonia Haynes Stone Center for Black Culture and History in the hearts and minds of all those she touched. The annual Sonia Haynes Stone's Memorial Lecture is dedicated to her memory, to the standard of excellence, advocacy, and activism she left as a legacy.
In honor of Dr. Stone, the Untitled Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated would like to pledge to make the first contribution to the Stone Center Auditorium seat naming campaign. This contribution will dedicate the front row center seat in the auditorium to the memory of Dr. Sonia Haynes Stone. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Jasmine Jennings, and I'm a political science major from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Tonight, I stand before you to introduce the Honorable Assistant Attorney General Carol B. Mason. Assistant Attorney General Mason is a native of Annandale, New York. Upon graduating from high school, she made the courageous decision to attend UNC Chapel Hill. When asked why she made this decision, she said, "I love Carolina because I didn't know anyone. I could stretch and grow and figure out exactly who I was." As a mathematics major at Carolina, Mason did exactly that. She was a residence advisor and was already beginning her career in public service. She also showed a very special interest in public service at a young age. While living at Hinton James dorm, she and 8 other women declared themselves the chocolate suite because they were the only African American women in her class. While at UNC, Miss Mason received the Sidney Sullivan Award for humanitarianism. She also became a member of the Theta Psi chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She made sure that everyone knew who she was on campus and that her public service was forefront in all that she did. When she graduated, she attended the University of Michigan Law School and later became the first African-American woman to become a partner at the law firm of Alston & Bird in Atlanta, Georgia. On February 13th of 2013, President Barack Obama nominated Ms. Mason as the first Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Justice Programs. The United States Senate confirmed this appointment on April 25th, 2013. In addition to these incredible accomplishments, Ms. Mason has remained connected with UNC Chapel Hill. She serves as a member of the university's Board of Trustees from 2001 and 2009. She also received the university's Distinguished Alumni Award in 2013. She played an integral role in making the Stone Center a reality. She made significant contributions to fund this building, and she also encouraged friends, alumni, and students to do so as well. As our distinguished speaker for this evening, it is important to note that she embodies the values and ideals that Dr. Stone exemplified. These values demand consistent investment in the advancement of society, an interest in supporting the ideals that have supported the African American community, and most importantly, knowing that social justice must remain forefront in all that we do. In her career as a public servant, Ms. Mason has personified the ideals that Dr. Stone has allowed us to have as a university and as a Stone Center. It is an honor and a privilege to have her with us tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, please stand and welcome Assistant Attorney General Carolyn Mason.
I didn't know you knew about chocolate sweet. So will my chocolate sweet folks please stand up? And you're here. And tease, and it's a wonder that we didn't get in trouble when we would march into parties with our chocolate. Yeah, we were young once too. You look like us one day too. I was looking at when I met the scholars, and I said to Joseph, are they in college? And they said they're juniors, and is the young man Jordan? Is it or Jordan? It was a J. I'm horrible with names. He said, I'm a senior. And I was like, that doesn't make you look older. You're a senior, but you still look like a baby to me. And one day you will appreciate that useful look. So thank you for this opportunity. And my Beta Pi sisters, you know, still do it. So thank you. It's an honor to be here to help celebrate the legacy of a woman whose life and work means so much to this university and who instilled in so many students an unapologetic sense of pride in their heritage and culture. I'm also grateful to Chancellor Holt, who was kind enough to personally welcome me back to Chapel Hill, and a place that I loved as a student and as a trustee, and one that I will continue to cherish for many, many years to come, and want to stay as connected to this university as I can. And I'm also thankful to Joseph. I first met Joseph when before he started this job, because we met in Atlanta when he said he was going to be taking the job. And he didn't waste any time starting to talk and figure out how we were going to raise money and do things. And what you've done with the Stone Center is just phenomenal. We helped build a building, but you gave it life and gave it work. And as I've said, I've got to thank my Theta Pi sisters for all that you've done and all that you continue to do for the Stone Center and for the wonderful example you're setting by stepping out first to name a seat in honor of Dr. Stone, so thank you for that. And so we've got a challenge, the rest of us, to finish the challenge. As a math major, I never had the opportunity to sit in on one of Professor Stone's classes. They were legendary, not only across this campus, but across African American studies programs throughout America. I know that I would have shared the awe and admiration of my fellow Tar Heels, and I would have been enriched by her guidance and instruction. And even though I wasn't in her classes, didn't know her personally, I am where I am because of the work that your mother did, because she empowered us and made us feel welcome on this campus and to know what we could be. So thank you for representing her tonight. I think that she would be proud of the way that her memory has been honored by this beautiful building and all that it contains, proud of how the foundation of knowledge that she helped to lay has been put to such noble use by the university and its graduates and faculty and the current students, and most of all, the enduring impact that she continues to have on young leaders like the three scholars here. And on Sunday, I expect all of you all to be delivering a Stone lecture, and we'll come back to support you too. Whether or not you had a class with Professor Stone, you could not escape her influence at Chapel Hill. She made everyone feel the aliveness of African-American history in the contemporary world. John Hope Franklin famously said that one might argue that the historian is the conscience of his nation. Professor Stone was that conscience and residence among us here at Chapel Hill. That sense of the presence of the past which she espoused is useful to us today, especially in the world of public policy, where I now have the privilege of working. So the speech might get a little wonky for some of you guys, but it's important for you to hear what I'm talking about because it's a world that you guys are going to be entrusted to change. So don't get drowsy in the middle when I start giving statistics, because these are things that you need to hear, because by the time you're giving this speech, we want a different world where these statistics don't sound that way anymore. So, as an African-American Assistant Attorney General working for the nation's first African-American Attorney General, serving in the administration of our first African-American president, I have learned that in spite of the obvious progress we are making on so many fronts, history is still very much with us. When it comes to matters of crime and justice, especially, there is, frankly speaking, very little post-racial about the world we live in. And I know that you all heard the news about what happened in, some of the stories say Raleigh, some of the stories say Pico Arena. I'm not sure where it was, but I know it's in his backyard. So we know that we're not yet in that post-racial society that we thought we all ushered in 2008. Too many young men of color are still arrested and locked up for far too long. Too many black males are killed or victimized by violent acts. And too many minority families and communities are torn apart by high incarceration rates that have done little to make us safer. If we are honest, we must admit that we have yet to transcend race as a factor in our nation's criminal justice practices, and this has led in many cases to hollowed out communities and a crisis of faith in our institutions of color, of law, in our institutions of law among our communities of color. I don't mean to paint a bleak picture. The fact is, as a nation, we are in a much better place today from a public safety standpoint than we were 2 decades ago. The rate of violent crime reported to the FBI in 2012 was about half the rate reported in 1993. And since President Obama took office, the rate of incarceration in our country has declined 8%. There's no doubt our country is a much safer place, and fewer people are being warehoused in our prisons and jails. Still, the national statistics don't always tell the full story or convey the extent to which crime and violence are concentrated in certain communities, and particularly in certain parts of those communities. We have learned through research that criminal activity tends to focus in what we call hotspots, limited areas, sometimes as small as a city block or even a single building. It's in these neighborhoods that violence is taking its greatest toll, even as so many other communities grow and prosper. These are areas with high unemployment rates, poor housing, low academic achievement, and yes, large minority populations. While crime and victimization rates continue at historically low levels nationally, many communities of color are trapped in a cycle of poverty, criminality, and incarceration. Here, young African American and Latino men are at increased risk of becoming involved in our criminal and juvenile justice systems, as victims, as perpetrators, and sometimes as both. So these are the numbers that I'm going to tell you that are really, I hope, get your attention, and get your attention in a way that you remember that we are going to do something about these numbers, but I want you to know what they are right now. 1/2 of all young men of color have at least one arrest by age 23. African Americans make up 30% of the prison and jail inmates, but only 13% of the overall population in this country. Nearly 1 out of every 3 black men in their 20s is in jail or prison, on probation or parole, or otherwise under criminal justice system control. Overall, black males were 6 times, and Hispanic males 2.5 times more likely to be in prison than white males in 2012. And black youth make up just 16% of the overall youth population, but more than half of the juvenile population arrested for
committing a violent crime. The disparity is real, and so is the damage being done to our communities and our families. 1 in 9 African American children has a parent behind bars. We were just talking about that at my dinner today. We had a wonderful program at the White House yesterday talking about what we can do for children of incarcerated parents. One of the biggest things we can do is take away the stigma and take away the shame, because they didn't do anything. The other thing that we can do is remember that they are still children who need their parents. And so no matter what we may think of their parents love their children, and their children love their parents. And it's our job to figure out how do we reunify them and keep them connected. There is no question about the destructive impact that this disproportionate contact with the justice system has on communities of color. The damage goes beyond the immediate consequences of arrest and incarceration. An even larger problem is the erosion of trust that results when minorities' communities feel that they are targeted for hostile treatment by law enforcement. We know from painful recent experience, and I'm not talking about the one that happened yesterday. That's just another example. They happen every day, unfortunately. But we know from Ferguson last week that historic tensions have the potential to ignite into widespread unrest. What we've seen in Ferguson, Missouri follows an all too familiar pattern. Those of us old enough to remember can identify similarities between the events of the last few months and the outbreaks of the 60s of Newark, Detroit, Harlem, and Los Angeles, all precipitated by citizen encounters with the police. The difference today is that we know what we need to do to reduce the risk that a single tragic act becomes a citywide upheaval. Research in what we call procedural justice has shown that those who come in contact with the police and other justice system agencies are more likely to accept decisions by the authorities and obey the law in the future if they feel that they've been treated fairly, even when they are penalized by criminal sanctions. Even better, the communities of which they are part actively encourage respect for the law and cooperate with law enforcement when they feel that they are respected. This is encouraging because it means that a sincere effort to strengthen connections between law enforcement agencies and the communities they serve can help reverse the pattern of distrust and discord that has become too much a part of our nation's civic narrative. Now, remember what Joseph said. You all came here, this center is here, it's not just to entertain, it's to provoke thought and provoke some change. So I know that what I'm talking about may be a little difficult for some people to hear, but unless we own the story and figure out what it is we're dealing with, this trend is going to continue. But I have every confidence in the world that all you young folks and the rest of us old folks helping you are going to make a difference. So we can do this by ensuring that the administration of justice and the administration of law is fair, by working to eliminate bias in our systems of justice, and by addressing past wrongs and historic grievances. A number of communities are already engaged in this work. The Department of Justice during this administration has helped jurisdictions repair fractured relationships and restore faith in the integrity of law enforcement and its function. 2 weeks ago, and this is my big baby, 2 weeks ago, the Attorney General announced a major effort led by my office in partnership with divisions across the Department of Justice, and it's called the National Initiative on Building Community Trust and Justice. Its goal is to expand our base of knowledge about what works to improve procedural justice, reduce bias, and promote racial reconciliation, and to help communities address the challenges arising from suspicion and distrust between community members and local justice system agencies. And I'm so serious about this that I strong-armed folks, and I pulled together $4.75 million this year, and I intend to replicate that going forward to focus on this effort and make sure we make a difference. So we're partnering with a renowned group of criminal justice experts from the John Jay College of Criminal Justice, Yale University, the Center for Policing Equity at UCLA, and the Urban Institute, all who have extensive experience working with state and local police departments and communities on these issues. They've accumulated a vast knowledge of evidence-based models that they will test, refine, and expand in communities facing an array of challenges stemming from suspicion and distrust. They'll be advised by a national board of law enforcement practitioners, community and faith leaders that will work in close collaboration with the Department of Justice. Together with the department, this consortium of experts will undertake 5 major initiatives. They will test strategies and provide training on procedural justice, implicit bias, and racial reconciliation in pilot sites. We hope to do it in about 5 or 6 communities this year, and then add another 5 or so each year. They will create central information clearinghouse that will provide technical assistance to the field. They will also expand knowledge through new research. They'll develop material to help carry out that research into practice, and they'll promote a much-needed public dialogue around issues of race and policing. They'll tackle a number of issues from addressing strained relationships between minority communities and law enforcement to improving interactions between police and domestic violence and sexual assault victims, and responding to the concerns of the LGBT community. Under the direction of our Attorney General, who has worked so hard to protect the civil rights of all citizens while supporting efforts that improve public safety across America, this initiative represents a major step forward in resolving historic tensions in many of America's communities, including in our own backyard here. Through it, we will build on pioneering work being done in some of the nation's most challenged areas, and we will open doors to cooperation and trust that will lead to safer neighborhoods and a more just justice system that inspires the confidence of all those who serve. Now, I'm checking to see if you're awake. Who has heard of My Brother's Keeper? Oh, good, that's a good test. So, this effort is part of the President's My Brother's Keeper initiative, which is designed to give every young person who is willing to work hard and play by the rules a chance to reach his or her full potential. Across the federal government, we're working to give kids the advantages that many of them have never had and help them succeed. Private foundations have also answered the President's call to action by announcing independent commitments in support of this goal, the goals of this initiative. And I'm hoping that many of you all can be counted on to join in and do what you can to advance the goals of My Brother's Keeper. Helping kids succeed means ensuring that their path to success isn't impeded by threats to their safety, or by poverty, or by lack of job opportunities. It also means making sure that young people stay in school and out of our courts. Unfortunately, in too many jurisdictions, school disciplinary practices have become gateways to the juvenile justice system. So we had a big symposium on Monday with educators from across the country and several hundred people to talk about how do we change our school discipline practices. We now, instead of talking about the school to prison pipeline, we talk about supportive school discipline. So the question I'd like to ask people is, how many of you did not get in trouble when you were in school? Oh, you were rare. I'll confess, I got in trouble. You know, and I thought because I was smart, I could talk my way out of it. And mainly I did. But the things that I did, or many of us did when we were young, today we're using those to put our kids into the juvenile justice system, which should not happen. So we're going to use you to be the role model, because you're the first time I've seen a hand go. My sister did too, that didn't stop me. You're better than I am. A 2011 study, that's also showing you that you can still succeed even when you act out when you're young. And I did pass the vetting test in spite of my behavior. A 2011 study in Texas that tracked students over the course of 6 years found that 60%, yes, 60% were suspended or expelled at some point in middle or high school. And most of these suspensions or expulsions were the result of simple violations of school codes of conduct, like using tobacco or acting out. These zero-tolerance policies disproportionately penalize minority students. Studies show that Black middle school students are suspended nearly 4 times as often as white youth, and Latino youth are roughly twice as likely to be suspended or expelled. The result isn't simply that those kids are missing the opportunity to learn and grow, which is bad enough. In many instances, they're being put on a path that leads them directly or indirectly to arrest and too often to confinement. That's why, under the umbrella of My Brother's Keeper, the Department of Justice is taking steps to help restore common sense to school disciplinary practices under what I've just described, the Supportive School Discipline Initiative. We're working closely with our partners at the Department of Education to foster a safe, supportive, and productive learning environment while keeping kids in school. Now, I heard that the Campus Y is a major supporter of the campus, of the Stone Center. And I know that when I was in school, the Campus Y had a wonderful Big Brothers Big Sisters program and had wonderful mentoring programs. And you have many, many opportunities here to mentor young people. So how many of you all are reaching back and mentoring somebody behind you? Good, good. That's what we need. You don't need to think about too often we look for big things to happen, big change, but you are the change. Every single thing you do changes a life. And if every one of you changes one life, just think about how many people, what a difference that you're making. So yes, it's wonderful to have the kind of job I have, but it's more wonderful for each of you to do the things that you're doing in your community and in your families. So, as I mentioned, we issued guidance to school districts on steps that they can take to reform zero tolerance discipline policies, and we recently awarded $4.3 million to promote positive behaviors and increase school safety. One of the benefits of my job is I have a $2 billion budget. That's the fee. Actually, it's more than that, but I give out $2 billion a year. And because I do that, people listen to me. So, yeah, they do. I know it's not about me, but I use it as a bully pulpit every opportunity to talk about these issues that are going to change the lives in our community. So I want to go back and tell stories about the things that you all are doing that in your communities and doing here at Chapel Hill so that you can set an example and will be an example. So don't be surprised if you wind up in my stories and my speeches going forward. So a child's future success is determined by many factors. Next to strong family support, none is more critical than a solid education. There is no question that young people who act out and commit infractions should be held accountable, but they must also be given a fair chance. The opportunity to achieve at a young age is so crucial for so many reasons. In my field, criminal justice, supporting youth is critical because it's the bulwark against delinquency, crime, and violence. You know, I fight all the time for more budget because the smallest part of my budget is the juvenile prevention work. But I like people to understand, you know, we're smart. They ought to understand supply and demand. If you tamp down and figure out how to keep kids in school, keep kids on the right path, they don't wind up in our criminal justice system. So by doing the things you're doing, encouraging these young folks, working with them, making them feel like somebody cares about them and cares about their success will make my job a lot easier. So we're doing our kids and our communities a tremendous service when we give them the support and skills they need to stay on a path to responsible, productive behavior. For many kids in our country, the path to achievement is a relatively smooth one. And I suspect some of you all may have had that, but not all of you. I know that. Given the statistics, several of you in here defy the odds, and we want to keep doing that. Some of you come from homes where parents are present and involved in your lives. Some of you live in safe neighborhoods where you have healthy relationships with your peers. And some of you, obviously all of you here, have access to a good education, at least while you're here, enough to get here at Carolina, which is a huge, huge accomplishment. But for too many other young people, the road to success is not so well paved. These kids come from communities where support networks are weak or lacking altogether. They're surrounded by poverty and negative social influences, and too often as a result of these disadvantages, they find themselves caught up in the justice system. It's our job, it's your job, it's our job as educators, policymakers, and you all, future leaders, who by dint of your own initiative and hard work have found the recipe for achievement to help guide those who have been denied these opportunities. It's our role, it's your role, a role that we should be privileged to assume, to be the voice that raises the chorus, the hand that lifts the fallen, the conscience of a nation. The lesson of our history is that progress is a slow march, and as Dr. King put it, it is neither automatic nor inevitable, but it is not quick and easy success, but hard work and perseverance that will give our accomplishments lasting importance. The progress we have made as a nation has been hard won, the result of courage, sacrifice, leadership, like our first professor here at Carolina, on the part of countless heroic individuals. I believe courage continues to be called for in our own time. Challenges remain, inequities still exist, citizens in pockets of our country, the wealthiest and greatest nation on earth, still see life through the lens of despair, but we are in a position to help them find hope, and with history as our guide, the history of adversity overcome and triumphs achieved, I know that we will find answers to the problems that remain, and that we will continue to become an even more perfect union. So I'm counting on you guys, and I'm going to be coming back in 10 years to hear what you have to say about what you've done. So thank you for the work that you will do.
we would like to acknowledge the contributions of the previous directors of the Sonia Haynes Stone Center, as they played important roles in the history of this building. The first director of the center was Dr. Marva B Crawford. During her tenure, the center was located in a room in the student union. Dr. Crawford was instrumental in laying the groundwork for many of the center's community programs in existence today. As director of the Stone Center, she founded and directed the Cross-Cultural Communications Program, and a Saturday school for local public school students called Communiversity was established. The Communiversity program entered its 23rd year this semester and is one of the longest continuously running community engagement programs at UNC at Chapel Hill. Dr. Crawford completed her PhD at Northwestern University. She is the former assistant professor of African American history at Northeastern Illinois University and currently serves as the director of the TRIO Support Student Services at Chicago State University. She is the loving mother of 9 children and 15 grandchildren. Dr. Crawford was a colleague of Dr. Sonia Haynes Stone and is a committed educator who worked tirelessly to make this center a vital part of the university community.
Following Dr. Crawford, the Stone Center's second director was Dr. Gerald Horn. Dr. Horn came to the Stone Center and quickly committed himself to the campaign to raise funds to construct this building that we stand in tonight. An internationally recognized scholar, Dr. Horn used both his work and his research to set the intellectual agenda for the Stone Center, which to this day still informs our work. Dr. Horn received his PhD from the Columbia University and his JD from the University of California at Berkeley. He is the author of more than 25 books and countless articles. Dr. Horn holds the John and Rebecca Morris Endowed Chair and serves as the Chair of History and African American Studies at the University of Houston. The Stone Center has always endeavored to be meticulous in documenting the histories and the cultures of Black peoples, and in acknowledging the people and events that shape what we represent in the intellectual life of this campus. These two individuals played a major role in making us who we are today. Both Drs. Crawford and Horn send their regrets that they could not be with us this evening, but please join me in recognizing the outstanding efforts and contributions to the success of the Sonia James Stone Center for Black Culture and History.
Before I begin, I'd just like to ask us to thank our speaker for that wonderful, timely, and appropriate message tonight. I have a renewed life sitting next to her now that I know about the $2 billion. I do want to ask that you give me one special moment. Are our university volunteers in the building? Can you stand, please? This is the longest running program. It's 4 days a week, K through 5, and you all should also know that the 5th grade students in Communiversity every week take a culinary class at the Lantern Restaurant. I wish I could take a culinary class at the Lantern, but hopefully by Thanksgiving, we'll have a special meal prepared for us by the 5th graders of Communiversity.